please welcome U.S. Senator Todd Young. Our next guest has represented Tennessee's 3rd Congressional District since 2011, which is home to Oak Ridge National Labs, as well as my home city of Chattanooga, Tennessee. He has the distinction of currently serving as the Energy and Water Appropriations Subcommittee Chairman, and he also sits on the Defense Appropriations Subcommittee. He's a member of the House Committee on Science, Space, and Technology. Please welcome to the stage Representative Chuck Fleischmann. And finally, back for round 2, an increasingly familiar face to you all, and leader of the U.S. National Science Foundation, NSF Director Panchanathan. Sujai, floor is yours.
Thank you, Jonah. This morning I was looking at the Financial Times headline, and one of the articles was how the U.S. is growing faster than any other advanced economy at the moment. At the same time, you just had the election, and one of the messages from the voters was that the cost of living is high, and that the American electorate, large parts of our country, feel disconnected from this remarkable economic growth and they feel disconnected from the innovation economy. So one of the issues here is how do we connect America's innovation base to the broader engine that is growing our economy? So just maybe a broad question to all of you as we get started. Tell us a little bit about what this innovation base is and how do we connect our economy to this base?
Well, thank you. Thanks for the question, and I'll tackle it momentarily. But it's great to be with you again. It's great to be with Dr. Panch and of course, my former colleague in the House, Chuck Fleischmann. I know all of them have worked painstakingly on this topic. I hail from the state of Indiana. And Indiana, I think, is commonly known as an agriculture state. We are that. It's increasingly known as a life sciences state. We're also that with Eli Lilly in the center and many other prominent companies. We're also the most manufacturing intensive state in the country. And over the years, some of our workers have been displaced in the main on account of automation and whatnot. So we've been reflecting on this question a lot. How do we leverage the amazing innovative potential, places like Purdue University, University of Notre Dame, Indiana University, and other places, so that we can bring more people into the economic game in this hyper-dynamic 21st century. And so one of the things we've thought about is if we can take the innovations that are occurring at those places and others and figure out how to economically manufacture them here, we can employ a lot of our workers. That means innovation in your manufacturing processes, right? Moreover, if there's a demand for these products here in the United States, whether it's catalyzed in part through government action or just otherwise created, that creates the upstream incentive for more innovation. So I think the two concepts are very deeply linked. Mm-hmm. And all of those things, as we've seen in the war in Ukraine and other places, have a very direct impact on our national security, which is tied to our economic security. If you can't make all the stuff you need to run an economy, you're going to depend on others. If those dependencies pertain to critical inputs and you don't have redundancies from trusted suppliers built into your system, then this whole situation of lack of sufficient manufacturing base tied to your innovation base impacts your way of life in a meaningful way. So from a national security standpoint, from an economic opportunity standpoint and a quality of life standpoint in terms of coming up with the innovations of tomorrow, which is what so much of this audience cares about on a daily basis, all those things are increasingly recognized as linked together, and policymakers are trying to figure out how to coax more innovation and manufacturing out of our economy and our people.
So Congressman Fleischmann, one of the key issues in connecting Americans to this innovation economy is to train the workforce. How do we meet that challenge? I mean, it's an issue of making sure that we have the talent, we have the capability, but how do we make the connection?
Well, thank you for the question. And to Senator Young, thank you, my great colleague and friend. We came in together in 2010 in Ponch. Thank you so much for all your work at the National Science Foundation. Workforce development. I am privileged. Todd comes from the great Hoosier State. I come from the volunteer state, the great state of Tennessee. I have the great national lab at ORNL, which is in Oak Ridge. I also have my home city of Chattanooga that partners with Oak Ridge. I can't overstate the value of that partnership. But workforce development. We need to work with local, state, and federal leaders to make sure that we have a qualified workforce. How do we do that? The great state of Tennessee came up with an idea several years ago that through funding by its lottery, that any student that qualifies academically can get a free 2-year college education. Now that can be at an institution that has technical learning, that can be at an institution, a junior college if you want to go on to whatever your endeavor may be. But we have got to train our workforce. And I think it starts with an ethos. I was the kind of a kid that was very good with a book and the like, and did well. I went on and got a law degree and was very fortunate. But I can remember, and I'm 62 now, I can remember we had students who were so skilled in shop class, metal shop, wood shop, engine shop. And unfortunately, in that era, they were demeaned. We need to raise these folks up. We need to get into our technical colleges and say, you have a gift. So that when we develop that potential, if that young man or young lady has a gift that's technical, whether it's with a book, whether it's with an engine, you name it. And I will say this, for our nuclear workforce, and that's the space that I occupy, we want to make sure that we have a nuclear supply chain and a nuclear workforce that can actually fill these jobs. So it's a matter of developing potential. It's a matter of having it ease of work for the students, and to make sure that every student is cherished regardless of their gift.
So, Director Panch, both the Senator and the Congressman have connected our need for a strong innovation system with national security. How does the NSF work to make that connection take place?
Thank you very much, Sujay. Before I get started, I just want to tell the audience, these are two amazing leaders in Congress that we are very fortunate to have. I mean, these are leaders who fight every day for how science, technology, and innovation needs to be prioritized, and how that forms the framework for how we ensure national security, economic prosperity, and societal prosperity. So I just want to take a moment, all of us. I know we'll have a chance, but we should be so grateful to them. I can tell you, I'm very grateful to them. NSF is very grateful to them. The science, technology, innovation community is grateful to them. So I want to start off with that. Truly, truly grateful. To your question, NSF, just to put this in perspective, I might have shared this in my remarks this morning. Just 2 weeks ago, we had the Nobel Prizes being announced. All of the Nobel Prizes, biology, medicine, physics, chemistry, and economics, were all laureates funded by NSF. To date, 268 Nobel laureates have been funded by NSF early in their career. There is no agency, none on planet Earth, who has that kind of a track record. That is the basis of innovation. So let's start right there. Now, this is one testimony to the unbelievable innovative spirit that permeates our nation. You talked about why innovation, and what is it about innovation? Mm-hmm. This is what makes our nation so great and the envy of the world. Every country in the world wants to have at least one Nobel laureate. Okay, some of them, one Nobel laureate. And here we are, year after year after year, showing that the thread of innovation, the fabric of innovation, the spirit of innovation, the DNA of innovation is vibrant in our nation. So I just want to start right there and celebrate that. Now you take that and you say, look at what Vannevar Bush, when he conceptualized Science, the Endless Frontier, and wrote the wonderful treatment coming out of World War II in 1945 to President Roosevelt. And you look at the mission statement of NSF that was outlined from that. 75 years next year will be 75th year. Not one word of that mission statement would be changed because it stands the test of time. It propels us forward always, the frontiers. And thanks to the Senator for co-sponsoring the Endless Frontier legislation a few years back. But what that mission statement states is very clearly NSF, through the advancement of science, is about what it guarantees: health, prosperity, and national defense. So right from the mission statement of NSF 75 years ago, NSF was charged and entrusted with this important responsibility of ensuring that the fundamental discoveries to translational activities to all the innovative potential is all linked to this purpose of national security. So it's not a new thing. It's part of the fundamental DNA of NSF. And what happens through these Nobel innovations is just one piece of that. Every project of NSF, you can always link it back to either economic, national prosperity, economic prosperity, national security, and societal prosperity. You can link it to more than one of these. And that's the way NSF has always advanced. And now we are taking this moment, and that's why this convening is exceedingly important. This is a convening of the innovative masterminds all across the country who have all prevailed by putting their ideas in front of NSF, Regional Innovation Engine Program, and the Regional Technology Hub Program of Commerce, prevailed, and they are unearthing this unbelievable potential that is there everywhere. And so their work is going to further amplify and solidify our commitment to national security and economic prosperity. So I think this connection, I would say, Sujay, is very strong, has always been there, is now being strengthened even more through the programs like what the TIP Directorate is doing at NSF and the EDA efforts. And thanks to Congress for providing the support that makes that possible.
So, Senator Young.
The nation's foremost evangelists for science and technology. Yes.
Yes, indeed. Well said.
We have been well served in recent years, so thank you, Panch.
So the director just pointed out the recent legislation and other movements to really connect our innovation capacity in the country, link them through these hubs and engines. But you were a major part of the leadership in creating a sort of bipartisan consensus towards this. How do we maintain that bipartisan commitment as we go forward?
So I can answer this. My dad was a salesman, and he always did a good job of divining. I watch him. I'd see him in a sales setting periodically, and divining what was important to regular people, the people he sold to. And so I know from previous interaction and life experience that like practical benefits of innovation are really, really important. So you don't sell the steak, you sell the sizzle, right? So let's focus in our advocacy on an ongoing basis on the practical benefits. Tell people to imagine when you're thinking of artificial intelligence. Imagine a world without traffic. God, I hate traffic. That sounds great. Imagine a world in which we could cure cancer, potentially in the next 10 years or so. Really? Really? That's possible? Imagine a world in which every man, woman, and child in the face of the earth has an individualized, personalized tutor. So if you can capture people's imagination with things that are accessible to them and they care about, that's important. The other thing that people in this moment in history care a lot about is national security. Members of Congress in particular. So if we can frame our economic challenges, our requested investments from the American people at a time of scarce resources within the context of a U.S.-China competition or a U.S.-Russia or Iran competition, that's highly compelling for individuals as well. If we can do all of those things, I think we have a chance of actually having some appropriations put forward and supported for in a bipartisan basis and sustainably for these important policy priorities.
So Congressman Fleischmann, Senator Young just pointed out that we need to focus on the appropriations part of that. And as the chair of the Energy and Water Appropriations Subcommittee and someone who also sits on the Defense Appropriations Subcommittee, what are the challenges here and how do we make sure that appropriators are thinking about these kinds of challenges?
Well, thank you. I guess all roads lead to appropriations, right? And I thank you for that. And it's a coveted role I have in the Appropriations Committee. And I can remember 12 years ago, I've been in Congress 14 years, when I asked then Speaker Boehner to go on the Appropriations Committee. And he asked me a resounding why at that point in time. Speaker Boehner was a strong authorizer, but the Appropriations Committee is so important in the House and in the Senate. And the reason is, basically, we have got to, in very tough economic times, very tight budgetary times, and times when it's very difficult sometimes to actually pass a budget. We're in the throes of that right now, looking at another continuing resolution, probably by December 20th. Ideally, we would have our fiscal house in order and get a budget passed by October 1st. That doesn't normally happen. So as we seek to prioritize these precious federal dollars, what I refer to and Ponch refers to as an investment, we've got to be mindful and careful and get a good result there. I do think through the Department of Energy and through our national labs and other venues and funding NSF, we get a tremendous return on that federal investment. But we're going to have to be wise how we do that. We're going to have to answer ultimately to the taxpayer and to our constituents and to defend that spending. But America needs to invest in itself. That is a great investment. And if we invest properly, our future endeavors are boundless. It's infinite what we can do. We've seen it. You talked about cancer or curing cancer. I spoke with some Vanderbilt researchers the other day. They actually have pills now that are actually curing people with stage 4 cancers who have lived 6, 7, 8 years and now are cancer-free. That's truly astounding. Why? Because we as appropriators invested in that. Thank you.
So, Director Panchanathan, Congressman Fleischmann just said that we have to invest in ourselves. Tell me a little bit more about the NSF engines and the EDA hubs. How do they enable us to invest in ourselves?
Yeah. No, as I said, the fundamental premise of NSF engines and EDA technology hubs is we know that innovation is democratized, it's everywhere. Talent and ideas are democratized, they're everywhere. Which means that how do you tap into that potential? It is not just in the coast, as important as they are, it's in every part of our nation. Let's take Chattanooga, Tennessee. And there is, our good friend, trying to clap because he wants me to call on Reno, Nevada there. And then there in Indiana, when we went to Indiana. Where is it not? It's vibrant. All it takes is when I travel with the amazing leaders in Congress to various parts of the country, and you meet the researchers, you meet the students, you meet the entrepreneurs in those regions, you find that innovation is vibrant and is everywhere. And it's also in context, in-place innovation. So how do you then take that opportunity of bringing that innovation potential out? And that's the fundamental premise of the RIEs and the tech hubs, and working together, seeing how we can unleash that innovation everywhere. What we have found through the 2 rounds that we have sort of released these calls for ideas and projects is that the number of ideas, excellent ideas, far exceeds the investment potential that we have today. What I do not want happen as director of NSF is to lose any one of those innovative ideas to our competitors taking advantage of those ideas or the people with those ideas. That is a national security risk for us. I just don't want that to ever happen. We should be able to take those fantastic innovative ideas and those teams that are here and who are not here to be energized by the investment that we have. That has to be honed in for that kind of unleashing of that innovative ideas. So I'm so grateful that these 2 leaders here and many such in Congress are deeply committed to this. They understand this. They want that investment. And I'm so glad that Congressman Fleischmann said that it is the word investment. It is not spending, it's investment. This is really going to provide a lot of returns. When Senator Young co-sponsored the Create AI Act, for example, as an example, these are investments. Without that, we will not be in the vanguard of innovation, far ahead of our competitors. we are always ahead. But we cannot be ahead to the point where we are looking back and checking on our competitors. That's never a good thing. It should be that we are so far in terms of how far we are ahead that we don't have to check back. And that's what we are today, that moment that we need to seize to make sure that we are far ahead. And that's what NSF is committed to. NSF is not just committed to by itself, and I'll give you an example. The 10 regional innovation engines type 2s, the larger ones, the total investment NSF made was $150 million in 10 projects over 2 years. Guess what? We got $365 million coming in from the communities and partners that made it much greater than $500 million. What that tells you is this is a testament to not only those being validated. Typically, these kinds of ideas will get those kinds of investments. If they prevail, maybe in 5 years, in 10 years, somebody would invest. But those ideas are so compelling that they're willing to invest in day one, so that these are going to be sustained and scaled as innovation ecosystems into the future, long past the NSF investments. So it shows to me that people are willing to co-invest with us in partners. And therefore, we are partnering with industry. We are partnering with other federal agencies. We are partnering with foundations. We are partnering with philanthropy. We are partnering with economic development ecosystems. We are partnering with the governors and mayors and city councils. We are partnering with K-12 systems, universities, of course. We are partnering with community colleges. We are partnering with every partner that believes that this kind of an ecosystem building is truly the way we are going to advance innovation. We are going to train the talent and the workforce for the future, as well as birth the industries of the futures and entrepreneurs of today. That's what we need. And so I am convinced, by just looking at this, just 2 years of how we have seen these programs showcase the outcomes, it is truly remarkable. And this moment, I think, I have to say that our country is really rising up to the challenge of what Senator talked about in terms of our competitors, adversarial competitors. How do we outcompete them by out-innovating? And I find that the entire nation is ready to do that, precisely that. And I'm very heartened by that, and I'm so glad that NSF is able to be a part of that unleashing of innovation.
This is, again, this is what Senator Young said. You're an evangelist in the best tradition of that. One listens to you and one wants to go out and do it. So, and that's an important mission. Senator Young, speaking of these emerging technologies, you're the chair of the National Security Commission on Emerging Biotechnology. I think you're about to issue a report on this. Any previews? Also, a little bit of insight into the opportunities and challenges in this sector, and how does the issues of the roadmap sort of intersect with how do we build out and recognize the advantages and the competitive and the national security advantages of taking leadership in biotechnology?
Well, thank you. This is a general purpose technology, biology, much as artificial intelligence is, and so it's already having broad applications and impacts on facets of our life that just years ago we wouldn't have predicted. Developments in the non-biopharma related part of biotech are especially exciting to me. And so what has made possible all these developments? It's been artificial intelligence, largely. It's also been high throughput sequencing technologies and the decrease in cost in that ability to sequence all kinds of genomes. And so how do we use these scientific and technological developments to help regular people? That's one of the things we're trying to investigate, particularly the national security dimensions of this. We find that other countries, they have different models. China has a different model. They throw all kinds of money from upstream to downstream, from the research to infrastructure to commercialization, coming up with national champions, and then they manipulate our system, which relies on global talent, open capital markets, a free market system, and we have vulnerabilities that need to be addressed within our supply chain. So that's one theme you'll see. I can't volunteer the recommendations of this report because they won't be made public until roughly the first quarter of next year. We need a better regulatory environment. There's sufficient pull from the market. There's demand already out there for medicines, but there's not enough demand to really allow most investors to invest in biomanufacturing capability, which is what has more direct applications to, for example, our war fighters and the ability to create all kinds of new products that will benefit our war fighters. So that's going to be a point of emphasis, to no one's surprise, I think, in this report. Workforce is always going to be a theme as you think about emerging biotech. And we've learned over the years you can't just focus on undergraduates, doctorates, postdoctorates. We really need to reach deeper into our talent creation pipeline and be thinking about how we can inspire more high school students to study biology. So this is something that we've given a lot of thought to, and you'll see some emphasis on this. But in the end, I think we need to be asking ourselves, when is the Chat GPT moment for biology going to happen? Because it will happen. And who is going to be positioned to ride that wave and be the leader in the wake of that Chat GPT moment? Right now, the United States is not postured. Our system is not optimized to be that country. Others have better positioned themselves to win the biotech race. So what can we learn from semiconductors? It's a heck of a lot more expensive to claw back competencies and resiliencies than it is to stay out front. This is going to be my argument to my colleagues to foreshadow as it relates to emerging biotech. I think it's actually an argument that should be made in a number of discrete areas of emerging technology moving forward. Let's keep our lead. We've got the world's best innovation ecosystem. Let's maintain that. But let's also, while we're thinking about how to maintain it, figure out how we take these amazing innovations and we produce them here in the United States as well. And we're coming to the end of our work, and increasingly this is what I will be focused on.
It sounds, I can't wait for the report to come out, because it's all the things that you've been saying are the things that I've been advocating for and working towards as well as the folks in the audience as well, I'm sure. Senator Fleischmann, I was wondering whether you could sort of give us a sort of a bottom-up perspective. You have a national lab in your district. Explain to us, how is that lab serving as sort of a hub and a connector for all the new innovative workforce training, other activities in your region?
I'm so glad you asked me that question, because there are 17 wonderful national labs. I think I've got the premier lab at Oak Ridge National Laboratory, run by the University of Tennessee and Battelle. Literally, every function that a national lab performs, OR&L performs. But I think you've touched on something that is so critically important. President Obama went to Secretary Moniz, and Secretary Moniz came to me when I was just new to Congress, and he said, we need to get a national lab off of its wonderful but parochial reservation and bring it into a city and expand that knowledge, because we want that to grow and the like. And I can remember telling Secretary Moniz, who was a friend then and a friend now, I want to see continuity, whether it's a Democratic or Republican administration. But I said one major requirement, that city be Chattanooga, Tennessee. Now, we love Nashville, we love Knoxville, we have Memphis. Why Chattanooga? Chattanooga was the first gig city. Chattanooga, unlike any other mid-sized city, came together regardless of political affiliation, and worked together to try to get things done. And when I coupled ORNL with Chattanooga, I thought Chattanooga would be wowed, and they were. But the folks in Oak Ridge were even more wowed by EPB and our gig network. And we have collaborated and worked together. We've brought academia in. We've brought the think tanks in. We've had Secretary of Energies from both parties into Chattanooga. So it's so important. Chambers of Commerce, bringing everybody together, junior colleges, major universities. It's amazing. And that synergy has produced tremendous results. And it's my hope and prayer that this survives beyond just one administration to another. And I think the key is folks like Todd and I in Congress, we're going to push that collaboration.
That's really, again, very heartening to hear. Dr. Panchanathan, maybe the final word. You came to NSF with a mission to spark innovation and innovation anywhere and create opportunities everywhere. I think that's the phrase that you have been using. As you hear this conversation, as you look to the future, what worries you the most and what gives you the most hope? I think the second part should be easier to answer. But
so I'll start with the second part because it's easier. Not many of you. I'm glad you're all here today, and I'm so grateful that these two leaders are here today. Did you hear what they said in the last 40 minutes? This is the kind of unbelievable leadership that I get to interact with due to the virtue of my position. And I'm so proud of the leaders that we have in Congress. And I'm glad that you had a firsthand view of this today through this interaction. This kind of leadership is what makes me so optimistic and proud, that we have leaders who are willing to, go all in terms of ensuring that our nation is in the vanguard of innovation and being able to bring their ideas, their policy, expertise, and seeing how we can move the nation forward at speed and at scale. So I'm so glad you all get to see what I have the privilege of experiencing so frequently interacting with these amazing leaders. So that's the first thing I want to say. What is my worry? And I think I've already articulated that in my previous response. I just don't want any of our ideas or talent or the innovative, ecosystems not have the ability to be able to realize the fullest potential. I often say that we have unbelievable domestic talent, in my view, has not been tapped to the fullest. Let me give you a concrete example of that. It turns out our 15 states has 76% of all the innovative outcomes that are being realized today. That's nowhere near where it should be, not even half of the potential that we have in our nation is being taken advantage of. So we cannot rest. This is not the time to rest. This is the time to supercharge. And therefore, for that, my worry is that we should be able to do it fast enough so that we can take advantage of the full potential of what we have to offer in our country, so that our citizens feel that they're fully engaged in this innovation revolution that is happening right now, that they are able to bring their ideas and talent to the table. And that's what I'm concerned about, is how fast we do it, not whether we do it or if we do it. I know we will do it as a nation, but how fast we do it, because that will determine whether we are way ahead of our competition or not. And so that's my only worry. And so I know that worry is something that all of us share, and therefore all of us will work together, and that worry will be translated to an opportunity to do really better. And that's what I call upon each one of you. Every one of you here are already converted, and so it's like preaching to the choir. But yet it's important because I want each one of you to take this mission and work with all your constituencies from all across the nation. And if we all do our part, I have no doubt that worry will be gone, and we will be in a much better place. Thank you so much to all of you, and to the two great leaders that we have here. And Sujay, a great conversation.
Thank you, Dr. Panchanathan. Thank you, Congressman Fleischmann, and thank you, Senator Young.
Thank you so much.
This was really a remarkable conversation, and I think a real treat for the audience as well. I've come away with it with renewed optimism for our country. I think, as Dr. Panchanathan said, we have to do it, and we have to do it quickly. And we have to do it in a way that includes all Americans, and not just people in different clusters in the country. So this has to be a widespread and fast sprint. But I think with leadership, as we have seen on this stage, we can do it. So thank you again, and can you give our speakers a...
Thank you, friend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Of
much.
course.